Wall hops are essential to knowing how to play Riven. They can be used for many things like gap closing, flanking, and rotating. My name is Retrad, and I'm going to go over basic wall hopping mechanics, and also I'm going to show you how to do the hardest jumps that Riven can do. First, we have to understand how Riven's Q works if we want to hop those walls. Riven is only able to cross terrain with her third Q. By default, her Q will dash her forward no matter where your cursor is. If your cursor is targeting something, then Riven's Q will follow that target. You can use this to hop the walls without even adjusting your positioning. You can also use your E to adjust the angle that you're facing because Riven's E works differently than her Q. Instead, Riven's E will follow where the cursor is no matter what. You could also use your wind slash to change the direction you're facing. A Riven with more experience can hop walls without using her E, so they can use it for when they actually need it. But for the hardest wall hops, she does need to use her E, and the reason for that I will explain later. So that's basically the rundown for how her Q works when it comes to wall hopping. Now I'm going to show you what walls you can do it on. These are going to range from easy to medium and finally impossible. The easy walls are the very thin ones and it's hard to miss them. These are pretty straightforward, you have a lot of room to change your angle and you don't even have to be hugging the wall to still hit it. Some examples are base walls, Gromp, Side of Blue, In Front of Wolves, Wolf Pit, River Wall, Baron and Dragon Pit, Krug's Pit, Side of Krugs, and both sides of Raptors. You can cut corners the same way you can hop walls. This will let you get that extra little bit of distance than you would if you used your regular Q. Any corner that you see, you might be able to hop it somehow. If you're creative with your pathing, this could really pay off. You could actually hop towers as well. This could be really useful for tower dives. Sometimes your enemy won't expect it, and you could hop the inhibitors too. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to the more thicker walls, just like this one in front of base on the red side. The trick is you want to be all the way up into the wall to the point where you're clipping into it. To do this jump, you want to be facing straight forward. If you're at an angle, then it might not work. You don't need to use your E, but it does help with adjusting your angle if you're not confident. Another example is the curved wall in front of red buff. For this one, you can hop both sides of the middle part right here. One way you could practice is to Q twice into the wall and then jump. Then you can move on to just using your third Q. I like to practice this wall over at the red buff just because I'm inconsistent at it. And you gotta make sure you're facing straight through it like this. Don't be afraid to readjust by walking back a little and approaching it again. Try practicing both sides of the wall. And not only that, try practicing the same wall on the other side of the map as well. This blue buff wall could probably fit into the easy category as it's not as strict with the positioning, but this one is really good for getting around the map a lot faster. To get from top side Raptors to mid, you're going to need a specific lineup. All you have to do is walk up from the left side of the camp and click on the bottom corner of the stone right here. For this one, you don't need to use your E at all. Now to get from mid to the top side Raptors, all you have to do is walk up from the front of the tower and click here on the corner where the wood and the stone meet. Let Autopath do the work for you. Now we're going to go into the impossible territory that only an insane person would try in a real game. These are so hard that you will never get them perfect even if you practice them 100 times. I mentioned how some wall hops you need to use your E for them to work, and this is that situation. For these to work, you need to use your E to clip yourself into the wall. You'll notice that you get pushed out because you're actually glitching through the wall, and so you want to time your third Q before you get pushed out. So now that we know this, all you have to do is know where to stand and where to put your mouse. So let's get right into it. To get from bottom side Raptors to mid, you want to stand on this line in the middle of the camp. Stand in the center of the line and aim your cursor at the tip of this pentagon. And then just EQ3. To get from mid to the bottom side Raptors, you're going to want to look at these two pebbles over here. And then just to the right of it, you're going to see a piece of grass. You want to stand on that piece of grass, and then you want to aim your cursor on that same line, aim for the middle of it, and just EQ3. To get from bottom side Tribush to the Dragon Pit, you're going to want to stand right here, where you see a swirly vine. You're going to want to stand a little bit to the right of that. And for your cursor, you want to look for this rectangle over here in the Dragon Pit. Just put your cursor to the right of that rectangle. To get from inside Dragon Pit to Tribush, you're going to want to stand on the bottom right corner of that rectangle. And then you want to put your cursor on the same spot, just a little to the right of that swirly vine. To get from the top side Tribush into the Baron Pit, you're going to see a pile of rocks, and to the right of that is a piece of grass. you're going to want to stand on that piece of grass. And then for your cursor, you want to put it just at the tip of this sword over here in the barren pit. To jump from barren to tri-bush, you want to look for this crack to the left of the sword, and you want to stand right in the middle of the crack and the sword. And then look for this triangular rock right here, put your mouse to the right of it. This is the thick wall on top of mid. For this one you want to stand in front of the bush and a little bit away from the wall. And for your mouse you want to aim at this wall across from the blue mushrooms. This one is going to be the bottom side of mid. This wall is a lot thicker than the top one. For this one you want to stand in between these two rocks over here and aim for the bottom of the bush. For this one on the top side tower, there isn't really a lineup for this one, but you generally just want to aim for the crack right here. This is going to be from base to the wolves on the red side of the map. You're going to want to look for the topmost blade of grass and connect that to another blade of grass with a pebble right next to it. You're going to want to create a right angle with both of those blades of grass. And for your mouse you want to aim at the bottom corner of this rock with the swirly on it. Because of the way these work, I would never recommend you try them in a real game. Adrian Riven said it himself that these are unreliable and inconsistent, and they involve variables like how much movement speed you have, and so you're better off just practicing regular wall hops and corner cuts. To practice wall hops, I like to go into the practice tool and hop every wall that I find. See what works and what doesn't work. Try different lineups and see what works more consistently for you. Even in game, I practice hopping walls when I rotate or even hopping towers to get back into lane. So now that you know these tips and tricks, you should implement them into your games, and once you get good enough, you can do these without even thinking about it. That's going to be my wall hop guide. Hopefully you learned something. I just want to say that there are other ways to do these wall hops. Mine aren't the only way to do them. If my method doesn't work for you, then you might be able to find another method that does work better for you. And so if you liked it, please subscribe, and thanks for watching.